Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is on the online slips and referral tracking in BNI Connect. In October of 2012, we introduced this new functionality that allows us to pass referrals and record our one-to-ones and thank you for closed business and CEUs all online through BNI Connect. Now, there are a number of great benefits as a member for doing this. It allows us to go back and review our history as well as dive deeper into the information about our membership, but only if we're recording these figures online in BNI Connect. It also helps the vice president or the membership coordinator of your chapter by making their job a little bit easier because they don't have to count up the slips that were entered online. They're automatically entered into the PALMS report for them. So today what we're going to be doing is going through the functionality, all of the online slips, how to input them, how to track them, what extra information you can get out of it, all through BNI Connect. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started. This is a live webinar, so that means if you have any questions at all while we're going through the material today, please do ask those questions. You can do that by typing your question into the questions portal here in the BNI, into the GoToWebinar software. I'll be able to see those questions. They'll pop up on my screen, and I can answer them right away, or we will leave some time at the end for questions as well. We have the content scheduled for about 30 minutes worth of content. That way everybody can get back to their busy days. All of the material is being recorded. It will be made available in a couple of different places. The first place is if you go to this question mark in the upper right-hand corner of BNI Connect once you've logged in. That will take you over to the support site. We have a ton of documentation here, including the list of upcoming webinars. But if you scroll down to the chapter training and documentation section, you'll see a section for recorded webinars. And this is where we keep all of our recorded webinars in chronological order. You can take a look through them. For example, here's the webinars for June of 2014, and you can review any of the webinars in chronological order. You can also find all of our recorded content up on our YouTube channel, and that is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. Again, BNI Connect Global on YouTube. And we have our recorded webinars up here. We also have a ton of other materials such as educational moments, short 3 to 5 minute videos on specific topics. We also have special announcements from Dr. Meisner as well as information about new releases. So please do check us out up on youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. But let's talk about the online slips and referral tracking in BNI Connect. So as I said before, one of the great things we can do is we can pass this information online. When you first log into BNI Connect, this should be the home screen that you see. It's called the My BNI Business page. Again, it's the My BNI Business page. The first thing that you see on the screen is up along the top. And what this is a quick snapshot of your BNI activity. Now, this information is all of your activity in BNI Connect. So that includes if you've been using paper slips up until this point, it will include all of the statistics from your paper slips as well. And you can see your referrals received, your referrals given, your thank you for closed business given, your number of visitors that you're credited for in the chapter, as well as your one-to-ones and CEUs. They'll be listed for the last 12 months as well as for your lifetime in BNI. An important thing to note about these numbers is that these numbers only change on a weekly basis. So after your BNI meeting, your vice president of your chapter goes back, they accumulate all of the data, so they have to count up all of the paper slips and also verify any of the online slips. They submit that report, and only after they've submitted that weekly report will you see these numbers change. But they should be accurate, again, whether or not you've been participating in the online slips or just using the traditional method. The other thing that to keep in mind with these figures is that there is a new statistic here that has never been tracked before in BNI until the online slips were implemented. And that is this first figure up at the top of the screen here called revenue received to my business. And what this number is the amount of money that you've actually made in BNI. And we accumulate that number only when you turn in online slips thanking other people for business that they've generated for you. So when a referral has been closed and you thank them for that figure, that is then gathered up and totaled, and it is kept here in BNI Connect for you. Now this number is a private number. It does not appear on any of the POMS reports or anywhere else in the system. You are the only one that can see this total. And again, it is only accumulated when you put the slips in online in BNI Connect. So let's take a look at the slips. Down at the bottom of the page here are all the different things having to do with the online slips in BNI Connect. So the first four options, submit a slip, are the ways in which you would turn in a slip before your weekly meeting. The bottom four, or the next set of four here, those are how you can then go back and review the slips that you've turned in. You also can track referrals that you've received online, and we can even have a method for printing out paper slips if you'd like to turn in paper at your weekly meeting. So let's take a look at how these work. So let's say that I had some activity this week and I would like to turn in a slip before my chapter meeting. I can do that by clicking one of these submit buttons. So the first one on the list here is submit a thank you for closed business slip. In order to turn in a thank you for closed business slip, I'm going to click the link here and it will open a new slip for me. Now what we see on the screen, this should look very similar to what's usually the green slips that we pass at the regular chapter meeting. On the top, we can choose the member that we'd like to thank for closed business. Now, just one second, I do need to switch over to my testing system. I am actually a member in BNI Connect. I've been a member since 2002, so I'm coming up on 12 years. So I am an active member, and I don't want to mess up my own statistics. So I'm going to go into my training system here. And I'm going to click on Enter Thank You for Closed Business. Oh, I apologize, everyone. We just I had a momentary internet glitch there for a second. I am back now. Apologies. So let me back up a second here. So if I'd like to submit a thank you for closed business slip, what I'm going to do is click on Submit Thank You for Closed Business. And we'll see that this form looks just like the form that we pass in the chapter. So what I need to do is to select somebody from my chapter that I'm going to be thanking for business. So when I drop down this list, this will show me all of the current members of my chapter. So let's say that a little while ago, Ken Neff, who's a Verizon salesperson in my chapter, he gave me a referral and that has resulted in closed business. I would like to thank him for that. So let's say that this business turned into about $1,000 worth of closed business. I can mark off what type of business, whether it was new business or repeat business. Was it a Tier 1 or an inside referral or a Tier 2 referral? If you're not sure what a Tier 1 and a Tier 2 referral is, a Tier 1 referral is when two members of a chapter do business with one another. So in this case, a Tier 1 referral would be that Ken Neff used my services and he paid me for those services. A Tier 2 referral would be that Ken recommended me to somebody else. So somebody else that he knows, it could be a client, a colleague, or a friend, a family member. Anybody else other than Ken that he referred me to would be a Tier 2 referral. A tier 3 referral would be if that referral then referred me to somebody else. I'm going to call this one a tier 2 referral because he introduced me to a new company, and I can put some comments in. The comments are completely private, so they're for your own benefit. When this thank you for closed business is submitted, the vice president or chapter membership coordinator would only see the dollar amount and who is being thanked. They don't see any of the comments, so they are completely private. So I can put in that this was for Acme Insurance Company, and they needed a new computer, let's say. I have a couple of options at the bottom. I can click on Save and New, Submit, or Close. So Save and New would submit this slip, and it would open up a new slip right away so that I could keep going and enter more thank you for closed businesses one after the other. Submit would just input this one and bring me back to the home screen, and Close would discard this and throw away all the information and cancel the action. I'm going to click on Save and New so that I can insert another slip right away. So it brings up a new form, and I can put on another slip. Now the other option is if you do need to thank a visitor or BNI for closed business, you can do that by choosing one of the bottom two options. BNI is if we, let's say, past members, if you're thanking a past member for business or somebody else that wouldn't be in the list. And a visitor obviously would be a visitor to the chapter that might have used your services. You also have the option here to search cross-chapter. Searching cross-chapter allows you to look for other members in your region that you might have done business with or that you might be referring business to. One thing to keep in mind is that this is limited to the other members that are in your region. So, for example, I'm a member here in Rhode Island. I can search for other members here in Rhode Island. At this time, I cannot thank you for closed business or pass referrals to, let's say, somebody in California or Minnesota or the United Kingdom. I could only do business with other members in my direct region. But let's say that there is a web designer that is in another region here, in my region here. His name is Dave Cordero. I can never remember whether it's Dave or David, so I'm just going to put D-A-V in there and the first couple of letters of his last name and click Search. And I found it, and it's a good thing I just put D-A-V in because it's listed as David. I can see that he's in the CityBiz chapter, and he does do websites, but he does something different than the website designer in my chapter, so we do a lot of business together. So I'm going to choose him from the list. I can now see that the thank you is going to Dave Cordero here, and let's say that this was for $250, and this was repeat business, and it was for some stuff in his office. I can put the comments in, and again, I can click Submit or Save and New. I'm just going to go ahead and click Submit. Now, the great thing about submitting these slips online is that you can now track all of the slips that you've submitted. When you submit a paper slip at your chapter meeting, the statistics will go up here. I can see all the number of referrals that I've passed and the number of one-to-ones that I did, but I can't see the activity of what had actually happened because the vice president is only counting up the number of slips. When we submit them online, all of that information is captured for you. So you can see that I have a Review My Thank You for Closed Business Slips report here. And what I can do is go back and look at all of the slips that I've turned in online in BNI Connect. So I can see over the past couple of months that I've submitted these 5 slips thanking other people. Now this is great for a couple of reasons. The first of which is that this does allow you to go back and, I'm sure this has never happened to you, but Elliot Granville, I passed the thank you for closed business to him for $12,000 a couple of months ago. Now, unfortunately, let's say Elliot wasn't there at the meeting when I announced it, so he might not have heard that I passed that in. He comes back to me a couple of months later, a little bit annoyed, and he says, "Hey, I passed you that big job. Did you ever thank me for that?" I can go back to my records here and say, oh yeah, you know what, on April 16th, I did thank you for that, and that was for the Joe Smith job that you referred me to. When we pass in the paper slip, we no longer have access to that information anymore. The other great thing about this information is that you can go back and review it to see who you're thanking for a lot of business. In other words, who is the person that's giving you the most referrals or giving you the most successful referrals? You can go back and analyze this information for your membership. Again, you might have an idea of that, but unless you're turning in the slips online, you won't be able to see that information. And the other thing about this is the only way that the business received is tabulated is when we submit these slips online. So the total of all the numbers that you're thanking other people for will be put into your revenue received to my business statistics. All right, we do have a couple of questions that have popped up. April asks, for referrals given, mine shows 0 in 12 months and 6 in a lifetime. And I'm assuming you're talking about the referrals given up here. And she says, I used to belong in another chapter years ago. Is that where the 6 lifetime is coming from? So yes, if you had left another chapter and joined a new chapter, you won't be able to find those results in here, but those numbers will appear on your lifetime statistics if you were a member of another chapter at one point in time. So yes, that's where those numbers would be coming from. Jim says, will the thank you for closed business be open to those outside our region, do you think? It seems a shame not to be able to thank someone for several £100s worth of business, which might help their metrics. At some point in time, yes, it will be. I don't know when it will be done. The reason for that is right now, the cross-chapter reporting is still somewhat optional. It's still being adopted by many regions around the world. Here in the United States, we have been using the cross-chapter reporting. It was made mandatory in April. However, around the world, that is not always the case. So until it's adopted universally worldwide, we're not able to turn that on to be able to report it worldwide. I am hoping that happens soon, though. As a member, I do business with people across the country and across the world, so I'd love to be able to report those numbers and give people the right credit. So, does that answer your question, Jimmy? Excellent. All right, so let's take a look at referral slips now. Referrals, this slip should look pretty much just like the referral slips that you would pass at a regular meeting. And again, we have a couple of different options. We can choose somebody from our chapter. So let's say I have a referral here for Angela Moon. Angela Moon's a mortgage broker, and I met somebody that's looking for a mortgage. So I'm going to put that referral name in, and Molly Mortgage needs a mortgage. This is an outside referral. I can put the status, whether I gave that person the card or told them they would call, or both. I can put the address in for that person. And the telephone number. The email address. And any comments. So Molly's buying a new house and is looking for financing. Please call right away. This is a hot referral, so I'm going to put a hot on the temperature gauge here. And again, I have the option to click on Save and New if I have another referral that I need to give right away, or I can click on Submit. So I'm just going to click on Submit. And now, of course, I can also review my referral slips. So I can go back and review the information of any slips that I've passed online. It's going to show me by default the last month worth of referrals that I've given. I can go back, though, to any point in time and review a larger quantity of them. So I can see all the referrals that I've passed. And again, if I scroll all the way to the bottom here, I'll see that here's that referral that I just passed to Angela Moon for Molly Mortgage, the status, the phone number. So that way, if Angela ever comes back to me and says, oh, you know what, I lost the information, can you find it? Or did you ever pass me that referral? I can always go back and review it here. What is also great about this particular piece of information is you can see who you're giving the most referrals to. So before, we could look at the statistics and say, oh yeah, I gave 14 referrals in the past 6 months. But we couldn't say, who am I giving those referrals to? I can go through this list here, and I can click the To button to sort this list. And I can take a look here. I can see I've given 2 referrals to Ron. I've given a whole bunch of referrals here to Robin Lussier. Yeah, I've given a whole bunch of referrals to Ken Neff, a whole bunch of referrals to Joe Sylvia. Again, this allows me to look at my membership and see who my best referral partners are. Yeah, I can really make sure that I'm concentrating on my power team, making sure that I'm working close with them. Another thing that you'll see on this particular report and on all of the reports is you'll notice that there's a column here called POMS status. You'll see that some of them say completed and some of them say draft. The difference between that is that when we're submitting these slips online in BNI Connect, it's kind of like you probably have this in your chapter as well. And in my chapter, we pass around a bowl around the table, and as we're doing our referrals and our testimonials and our one-to-ones, our thank you for closed business, we stand up, we announce our activity, and we drop our slips into that bowl that goes around. What we're doing here is we're putting them into the virtual bowl or hat or whatever collection device you might use, putting it into a virtual bowl on a weekly basis, but they don't get counted in the system again until the vice president has verified all of that information on a weekly basis. After they've verified it and submitted the report, then this will go from draft to completed. And then they will be counted in all of the official statistics, such as the POMS report and these numbers here as well. So Jim and Lori have a couple of questions. Jim says, has the paperless referral system improved the quality of referral reality checks? One of the great things about the online system, when it comes to referrals, it is helping to improve the quality of referrals. And one of the things that happens when I submit a referral slip online, my referral partner gets a notification about it. So here's an example. This is an actual referral that I received just a couple of weeks ago, actually about a month ago. The referral, I can see that it was rated 5. It was a Tier 2 referral. It was given my card. I can see what the referral's name was. If he had put an address in, the address would be listed here. The phone number, if there was an email address listed, that would be here as well. I can see the comments that this was one that I've already taken care of. The cool thing about getting these referrals online is, A, it's pretty cool to get that email. I mean, I really, it gets you excited as a member to be notified right away that I've received a referral. But it also allows me to start following up on this right away. When I get this, I'm usually getting this on my mobile device. Now, when you click on a phone number or an email in a mobile device, you'll be able to, it usually pops up the phone number and I can make that phone call right away, or I can start an email right away. The other thing is that it includes all of the contact information for my referral partner in this email as well. So I can go back, I can call up, in this case, Matt Wall, and say, hey, do you have any more information about this? Or I just want to let you know this was a great referral, already taken care of. I don't have to go hunting for his contact information. It's right there for me. Which also means that people aren't putting in any, I hate to call it fake referrals or less legitimate referrals, because the other person will be notified about it and they will have the contact information. So does that make sense, Jim? I'm sorry, Jimmy? So Lori has a question. She says, I've been in my chapter for 2 months. Can I go in and enter my past referrals for my information only? And the answer to that is, for this, no, I would not recommend putting those past referrals in, again, because they've already been counted and they've already gone into the POMS reports, and we don't want to, unfortunately, generate a new slip, a new notification for that other person. When we get to their tracking your referrals received, you do have a way to do that if you'd like to, and I'll show you that in just a couple of minutes. April has another question. So do we need to put it online and write out the slip for the actual meeting? I will get to that one in just a second as well. So Joseph says, so thank you for closed business is after we complete a referral which was given to us. That is correct. So after I've received a referral and it has turned into money, I would then submit a thank you for closed business slip on that. So the next one here on the list, and I think I'm going to get to your question here in a second, Serini, is submitting a one-to-one slip. So I can click on submit a one-to-one. So after I've had a one-to-one with somebody, I can go in and submit a one-to-one slip. Again, if I have a one-to-one with somebody in another chapter in my region, I can choose that. Or I can select the person from my chapter. Let's say that I met with Larry Fish. He cleans houses. We met at Dunkin' Donuts, and we talked about areas of interest for cleaning opportunities. I can put in the date that we met. Let's say that we met on Wednesday, and click Submit. Now the cool thing about the one-to-ones is that only one person of the one-to-one pair needs to put that into BNI Connect. It will appear on both people's POMS reports, and it will also appear in both people's Review My One-to-Ones. So I can see that I did a one-to-one with him. It will appear in my one-to-one report. It will also appear in Larry's one-to-one report. The other good thing about this report is that it does allow you to go back and review your one-to-ones. I can go back and say, yeah, you know what, I haven't met with Chris Simpson since January. I should probably set another one-to-one with that person. Or I can see which members of my chapter I have met with and which ones I haven't met with, and strategize my one-to-ones better. So as far as your question, Serini, about updating the one-to-ones, again, this would report the one-to-ones. We can't go back and edit any of the topics or comments or anything like that, but this would apply the credit to the POMS report for you. All right, and finally, Jim says, can we backdate our one-to-one details? If you've already turned a paper slip in for any of this information, I do not recommend putting in another activity, as it will duplicate the statistics. If you really, really want to do that, I would recommend, especially if it was maybe within the last week or two, talk to the vice president of your chapter and say, listen, I turned in a paper slip for this. I'd like to put it in online so I have the information. Your vice president would have to go and remove the information out of the POMS report in order for you to do that. But again, I would just kind of start from here. So if your participation report isn't showing the statistics in there, then I would safely say that it hasn't been recorded in the POMS report, in which case to go ahead and put that information in. Does that make sense, Jimmy? All right, so finally we have CEU slips. This is something we're using in the United States. I know we have a couple of people online from, I believe, India as well as from the United Kingdom. You may not be using CEUs, which are chapter education units, but for those of you that are here in the United States, if you're using CEUs, this is how you can turn in a CEU slip. So for example, for today, you are on a BNI webinar. So I would say to go ahead, and you can do this right now or after the webinar, go in and put a quantity of 1 for the BNI webinar and submit yourself a CEU for this week. And once again, we do have a corresponding Review My CEU slips. So April says, So we don't put any paper in the basket. How do we get the door prize? And this is my favorite question. So you can put paper in the basket still, and here's how to do that. At the bottom, you'll see print your weekly slips. It's the last menu option. And what you can do is, now that I've entered a bunch of slips for this week, before my chapter meeting, what I want to do is go in and print out my weekly slips. I'm going to click Go. And here I'll see all the activity that I entered for the week, and I can print this out, and you'll notice that the referral slip is the size of a referral slip, or approximately the size of a referral slip. So all you need to do is take a pair of scissors. You can cut this out, or, like, I don't ever have scissors with me at my chapter meeting, so I do the little fold over, and tear the piece of paper trick. And you can put that into the basket that week so that you can be included for the door prize. And for you vice presidents, this is also sufficient information for using for the referral reality check as well. Now, you will notice that the rest of the information is not a traditional slip size, and that's because this doesn't really need to go into the basket. You can put it in the basket if you'd like to, but there really isn't a need to, because the reason for the slips is so that the vice president could count them and put them into the POMS report. But all of this information is already waiting for the VP in the POMS report, so there's no need to put the slip in. But there is the information there because we absolutely want to still celebrate this information, this activity at your chapter meeting. You absolutely 100% do want to stand up and say, I have a referral for Angela Moon. I have thank you to close business for Ken Neff for 1,000 and David Cordero for 250. I had a one-to-one with Larry Fish. I had one CEU this week. You want to report on the visitors and any other testimonials that you might be doing. So we do want this part of the meeting to continue on as it always had, but you can absolutely turn this slip in. Now, I also get the question, well, I don't have a printer at home, or I don't want to use my own paper. I don't want to, I forgot, I woke up too late. I didn't get a chance to print this out. That's okay. Not a big deal. Here's my recommendation. Take a regular referral slip at your chapter meeting and fill it out. However, put a big X through the middle of it, or you may even want to write on there, entered online, because you don't want your VP or your membership coordinator to double count that information. So again, print it out, cut it out, put it into the basket, or make sure that you put an X through whatever slips you've already entered online if you'd like to use a regular slip at the meeting. So hopefully that helps and that answers your question. So again, April, there would be no reason to turn in a physical slip for a CEU, but you do want to announce it at the meeting. But if you like the activity of dropping a piece of paper into the basket, just make sure that you put an X through whatever slip that you put in. Okay. All right, so let's see. We have a couple more questions up here. My leadership training was at the beginning of 2014, which has not appeared yet. Can I now enter that? So if you have not gotten the CEUs for that yet, then I would say yes, go ahead and enter that. If you're talking about the training appearing on your actual profile, then you want to talk to your regional office who can enter that information in. Okay? Jim has another question that says, how do I get past not having a telephone number for a referral? Unfortunately, the telephone number, if we're entering a referral slip, the telephone number is a mandatory field, so you do have to put something in there. If you don't happen to have a telephone number, I mean, it will accept, 0000000. I would highly recommend getting a telephone number, however, before you pass the referral. So the other thing is that when you start receiving referrals in BNI Connect, so when your referral partner then enters a referral for you in BNI Connect, you can go back and review those referrals that you've received in BNI Connect as well. And for that, there is a received referrals report. So if I'd like to, I can click on this, By default, it's going to show me the last 6 months, but again, I can change this to whatever date range I'd like to, and click Go. And now I can see all of the referrals that I've received from other people in BNI Connect. Now again, they would have had to submit the referrals online in order for the information to be here. But you'll see it also has a bunch of tracking information. I can update the information from when I contacted them, what their interest level was, when I met with them, when I followed up with them, what the status of that business is. I can also review any of the contact details. So if I lost, if you lose the little piece of paper from the meeting, you have to go back to the person and ask for that information. If they entered it online, I can always go back here and I can see here's Christopher Lyon, here's his phone number, here's his email address. I can see who referred me to them. Now again, I can also go back and update the status. And the status is a shared field with the other person, with your referral partner. I can update the status by using the Track Your Referrals Received online. And this allows me to go in. I can choose a date range. And for any of the referrals that I've received online, I can go in and update the information. So I can go in and I can mark what date I contacted them, mark what date I met with them, when I followed up with them. I can change how hot the referral was, and most importantly, I can change the status. So if I need to change the status from pending to closed to a no sale, my referral partner will see that in his referrals given report, what the status is of this particular referral. And going way, way, way back to one of the initial questions, if you'd like to track other referrals that you received so you have the information there if they didn't enter it online, you can always click on Add New. And you can enter the referral information in here if you'd like to track it. This will not affect the POMS report in any way whatsoever. So it does not change your referral received amounts. If you do put a thank you for closed business in here, it will not put a slip in for you. That is done intentionally, by the way, because this will also allow you to track different numbers if you'd like to for a particular closed business, and also for referrals that, if you'd like to track referrals that were maybe came from outside of BNI, so from maybe the Chamber of Commerce or something. You could also track those in here as well. All right, let me go back to the home screen here. All right, we have a number of other questions that have come up. I do realize that we are past the bottom of the hour. If anybody does need to leave right away, thank you so much for being here. The entire thing is being recorded, including all these upcoming questions, so we'll be able to review those if you do need to run off right away. All right, questions. April says, who tracks the visitors, the VP at the meeting? That is a kind of a highly variable answer. The VP is responsible for putting the statistics into the POMS report. However, it varies region by region and chapter by chapter who is actually recording the visitors, whether it's a visitor host or whether it's the secretary treasurer or the president, or, I mean, it could be any of a number of people. So I would check with your director consultant or your chapter president on how that works in your particular region. Okay, April? Let's see, Jimmy says, I often pass details of my BNI members in places like Facebook and community forums. This has resulted in some business, but means I often don't have a phone number with which the online slip requires. I do understand that, Jimmy. I understand the reasoning behind that. In that case, what I would do is, again, put in a fake phone number like 00000, and then in the comments put contact details passed online in Facebook. So having the phone number mandatory is in line currently with BNI policies, that the minimum of a requirement is that the person is expecting a phone call. So that's the reason behind why it is listed as a manual field right now. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. All right, let's see. Bobby says, what does the number in the thank you for closed business summary mean? Is that the dollar amount closed? So would that be, are you talking up here in the summary? Or are you talking in the review my thank you for closed business slips? Or are you talking about when you're submitting an actual slip yourself? So up at the top here, so the thank you for closed business given, this number is money that other people have thanked you for in BNI. So when somebody else in my chapter comes in and says, I'd like to thank Jeremy for generating $5,000 worth of business for my business, that number would be put in here. This is an accumulation of all of those thank yous that other people have thanked you for. The revenue received to my business is the summary of all of the online slips that you've turned in thanking other people for business. Does that answer your question, Bobby? Excellent. All right, Nicole has a question. She says, where on BNI Connect can we go to figure out how to appropriately calculate the figure dollar amount of business to report for your particular type of business? I know many report amounts differently depending on industry. That's an excellent question. I do have a help item on the support site for that. So again, click on this question mark here in BNI Connect. And again, that will take you over to our support site. And if you do a search for slips overview, I believe, that should give you a BNI slips overview. And at the bottom of this, it does tell you, thank you for closed business, and it gives you some ideas in general as to how to calculate those particular numbers. Generally speaking, it is gross receipts to the company. But again, it really is dependent on your industry. So for example, you know, a mortgage broker would be reporting on the gross commission to the company, not necessarily what she made personally on that, but the gross receipts of that commission to the entire company. Does that make sense, Nicole? I would definitely talk with your director, consultant, or your executive director for specifics on that one. Joseph says, do I enter all the past business dollar amounts which have not been entered to date once we start reporting online? I would say that any past business dollars that you have never entered or turned in a slip for, to go ahead and put those in and catch up with that. But definitely check with your vice president, check with your director consultant before following through with that, Joe. So Steve Elliott, you brought up a good point about the personal participation report. There is another great report in the system here, and this is called the personal participation report. You'll see this up at the top of the screen. This is an awesome report for checking out your activity. So if I click on the personal participation report, this will show me all of my activity for the last year. And it shows me week by week what that activity was. So the referrals, the visitors, the one-to-ones, the thank you for closed business. This is especially helpful if you feel that your numbers are inaccurate for whatever reason. This will allow you to go back and look at this and figure out exactly which week. Maybe you are unsure why you were being marked as being absent on a particular week. You can go through and go back week by week and maybe have a discussion with your vice president about that particular week and why it is a certain way. It does give you a summary at the bottom as well. It lets you know all of the people that you've sponsored in the last 12 months and all of the different training that you attended in the past 12 months as well. So hopefully, thank you, Steve, for bringing that up. Jimmy says, I like this new system immensely. With the current system, only the most outstanding thank you for closed business get read out. The next I see is a sum total figure, so I never know who has thanked me. Jimmy, just one other thing to keep in mind. When it comes to thank you for closed business, when other people thank you, it is still anonymous as far as the system goes. You won't be able to see who has thanked you for business. Again, it has to be anonymous based on privacy laws, so it's not going to help with figuring out who has thanked you. That's still going to be, you have to hear from somebody or you need to ask them directly, but you can ask them based on referrals received, and that's a good way to track that information. But you can definitely track your thank you for closed business given and be able to review that, and I think that's a great benefit as well. Jimmy says, but you get a better idea. And absolutely, 100%. All right, that was the last question I have. Do we have any other questions at all? I'd be happy to answer those questions at this time. Do we have any vice presidents or membership coordinators on the line with us today? If we do, I'd be happy to show you what that looks like to a vice president if you need to see that. April said, thank you, very helpful, and you are most welcome. Jean says that they are a vice president. Okay, let me just show you real quick what this looks like to a vice president. So if you're a vice president, one of the great things about this system, aside from all of the benefits for you as a member, as a vice president, this makes your job a lot easier as well, because the more people that are entering the slips online in BNI Connect, the less work it is for you on a weekly basis, because all of this information is waiting for you in the POMS report. So let me give you an example. Here in my chapter, we're about 60 to 70% using this in our chapter. If I was the vice president, the way that I'd go to enter the POMS report is I'd go to Operations Chapter, Meeting Management, and I would enter the weekly POMS report. So let's say that I was entering the report for this particular week. We met yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it looks like there's already one there. So let me select a date here. So this is our report that's already started for next week with any online slips. And what we can see here is that for our meeting next week, we've already had a bunch of activity that has taken place. Some referrals that were received, some referrals that were given, some thank you for closed business, one-to-ones, and I can see all this activity by clicking on the slips audit report. So I can see all of the online activity that was entered. So this is my balance sheet as to the paper slips versus the online slips. So this is essentially my virtual basket for the week, all of the activity that happened. And you can see here that the thank you for closed business is still anonymous. All that we see is that this person was thanked for business and the amount that they were thanked for. But again, that's that many less slips that my vice president will have to tabulate after our meeting next week. So hopefully that helps, Jean. All right, Jimmy says, I'm the training events coordinator. Can I see at a glance who is where with what training? Who is outstanding for member success program, for example? There is a report in the system if you have access to it. If I go to the chapter reports, the very first report that is listed there, and again, you may or may not have access to it, but it's called the Member Training Report, and you can see during a period of time who has attended which trainings. This also gives you an option, Show Not Attended. So, for example, if I wanted to see who in my chapter has not attended the Member Success Program, note that it ignores the dates if I'm using this option. So it would be that they've never attended Member Success. I can click Go, and I can see that I need to talk to these 3 people in my chapter about attending a Member Success Program. So does that help, Jimmy? Now, if you don't have access to this report, if that report is not listed under your reports menu, definitely talk to your executive director about why, if you can please have access to that report. April says, can you attend a leadership team training course before you are nominated to the position? That is definitely a question for your executive director or director consultant to ask them whether or not it is possible to attend a leadership team training. So it is highly dependent on your region and the policies in your region. All right. Any more questions? And again, on the online slips or anything else in BNI Connect, I'd be happy to answer those questions. All right. While you're thinking of any last-minute questions, a couple of things to remind you of on the support site. If you click on the question mark, our very next webinar is going to be BNI member tools and reports. So we're going to be going a little bit deeper into the system, show you some of the reports like that member training report, how to email your chapter, how to send out a visitor invitation, a whole bunch of stuff. That's going to be happening on Monday at the same time, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, if you'd like to join us for that. Or a good referral for me is if you found that this format was useful, helpful, if you got some good information today, a good referral for me is to please recommend these webinars to your other chapter members or members in your region. That would be very helpful and beneficial. We'd love to share the knowledge and get the information out of our heads and into yours. Reminder that this is being recorded. It'll be made available there on the support site, but also on youtube.com, BNI Connect Global. You'll be able to review any of our webinars and other recorded information up there. And finally, I would love it if you could give us a like up on Facebook, facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. This is our Facebook page, and we do tips and tricks and reminders and all sorts of things up here on our Facebook page as well. All right, I don't see any additional questions. Thank you so much for being here today. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Happy connecting, everyone.